Live from the podcast studio, this is from Long Distance Marriage with Rich and Andrea. We're a once long-distance couple who closed 5,000 miles of distance and are now happily married.
We talk long-distance, marriage and relationships. Hello and welcome to episode 59, our first of 2020.
It's true.
And we are going to be talking about making your partner feel special, which I think would be a good thing to sort of work on in the new year.
Yeah. So last week we did have New Year's resolutions, which were kind of, 3 goals you could work on together. But I think making your partner feel special is something that after a little while a lot of people struggle with. Mm-hmm. In the beginning it comes so naturally. Don't know if it's just because emotions and endorphins are running quite high because of all the newness and excitement, but at a certain point that does start to kind of fade, and I think it can really dishearten a lot of people and make them concerned. I think it's pretty natural, but I think especially in my experiences, men struggle with this after a while. I don't know if it's just having a lot more on their minds in some different areas than when it was just just a relationship or what, but I know that we've had periods of our relationship we've been like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, but I think it just manifests itself differently. One of the frequent things you hear is that women are more likely to lose interest in sex over time, and we've spoken quite a few times before about how men and women are more likely to want different things or express love differently or whatever. So I think men may be more inclined to struggle with the little acts of making their partner feel appreciated or whatever. But I think women may be more likely to feel less physical or, so I think it works both ways.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was just saying that I was just starting with men because men need help. But it may not be that way. It may be the other way around. A lot of women don't have problem with sex drive, and they're always kind of on the higher end. But I think really the important thing to start doing if, maybe your partner's made some comments that, they don't feel very, like you're making them feel special, or they feel unappreciated or taken for granted or whatever, really start trying to listen to them. And that's not just when you're actively trying to communicate with one another. I mean, that's really important. If you guys are talking about something important, you need to be present and being attentive and listening. But I think listen to them in the day-to-day when they don't really know that you are necessarily, to pick up on what's bothering them, what's stressing them.
I read between the lines too, because people won't always say, this is what's bothering me. And people don't always know what's bothering them.
That's not what I'm saying. I think if you listen to someone, you'll pick up on that.
Yeah, but if you're listening for them to say those words, they may never come out, and they may not know that's what's bothering them. But if they're, frequently on edge, or they're a little bit down, or they're a little bit snappy with you, or it's that age-old sort of joke about women. If they say nothing's wrong, then something's wrong. Sometimes you have to just look out for the signs, and you think, okay, clearly something, and maybe there's something that's bothering them. Is they're just feel a little bit underappreciated, a little bit unloved. Maybe specials, like a funny word, but it's kind of vague and broad. But if someone's feeling like they're not appreciated, or they're not feeling very loved, and they're not feeling like they matter, that can manifest itself in all sorts of different ways, but they may not consciously realise that's why I'm in a bad mood. That's why I'm treating you a little bit negatively, because I'm not sure how I feel about you in this moment. So read between the lines, look for those changes, and don't wait for them. If you're thinking, oh, I'll wait for those cracks to appear before I start to fix it, then prevention's always better than cure. So if you see that your partner's just a little bit glum, or they've been a little bit different lately, then don't necessarily have to have that conversation. Or people may be inclined to say, well, I asked what was wrong and you didn't tell me, so that's up to you. Like, take them out, go have a date, go out for dinner, make them, just take the pressure off them for one night. And it may or may not be the problem, but you don't have to have the conversation that leads to the answer, and then you think, well, okay, what can I do now?
Yeah, I like what you said, being special, it's kind of a vague word, but it can be as simple as making them feel seen, understood. Any of those kind of things can go along with that.
Or just letting them know that they're present. Like, if you just say, do you want a cup of tea? Like, you can just say, okay, yeah, I'm in the room, and I'm in the room, and sometimes that's all it has to be.
Yeah, and I think if you've been long enough for these feelings, sorry, if you've been together long enough for these feelings to start creeping in of feeling a bit underappreciated, I'm not feeling seen, I don't feel special, you've probably been together long enough to know what pulls a person out of those kind of things, or what does make them feel seen, or what does make them feel special. You know, if you know that your partner's favorite thing is going to the films, then say, hey, I want to take you to a movie tonight. If you know that they just want to snuggle up on the sofa and watch bad TV, then put your phones down, you know, shut the kids away, you can send them to bed early, you know, whatever you need to do, and do that.
And I think everyone can relate to it in some way. I remember, this isn't within a relationship, but I remember, like, my early days at university, I remember having a really just funky day. I just wanted to sit down and I was just feeling really sort of down. And when everyone asked me what I wanted, I was like, oh, nothing. I just, you know, just kind of leave me alone kind of thing. And, you know, my flatmates dragged me out. We just went out and they bought me drinks. And it really, really perked me up. Because it's just like, you know, like I said, it's not necessarily exactly the same, but,
No, but
it's that thing of
friendship.
people, sometimes other people know what you need more than you do. So, you know, they were doing the right thing perhaps in asking me what I wanted, but my response was nothing. Because sometimes when you're just in a bit of a funky place, that is all you don't
know.
Thought of it. And it wasn't depression or anything like that. It was just, you know, one of those days.
Funky day.
But the response is often, oh, nothing. You know, nothing sounds good. Nothing's appealing. I'm not good company. So if you recognise any of that in your partner and that is their response, oh no, I'm fine. Leave me alone. Blah, blah. You don't necessarily have to accept it. Obviously, you know them better than we do. We're talking generally, but sometimes you may know better, or you may know this will get you out of it. I'll take charge of this situation.
Yeah, that's a really good way to handle it. And, you know, it could be as simple as something as, let's go for a drive, you know, to some pretty scenery or anything like that. It doesn't have to be a big grand gesture.
Well, and if it's a long distance thing, if it's, you maybe they're feeling homesick, maybe they're feeling a bit left out of things, then maybe arrange a phone call with the family. You know, maybe you can talk to the family and they'll surprise them.
I mean, if like someone like for me who's left.
Yeah. So say you were feeling homesick, I may have a conversation with your family to say, why don't you surprise Andrew with a phone call? It would mean a lot, because I suppose it feels a bit different to you initiating the phone call. You're on the receiving end of it, and it makes you feel like, oh, they were thinking of me.
Yeah.
You know? So there's any number of ways you can go about it.
And if you're in a long distance relationship, you can feel like sometimes there are more obstacles to trying to be spontaneous and make each other feel special. But, you know,
we can send a care package.
Unscheduled call.
Yeah.
Send a cute video. Make a Spotify playlist and send them the link for it of songs that make you think of them, or songs that you guys have heard together when you've been visiting. You know, there's anything you can do. I think people just want to know that we're being thought about, and in a nice way, and that someone just wanted to do something nice for us, whether that's a grand gesture or not. And that goes a really long way. So I think, yeah, sometimes long distance you need to be a bit more creative, but it doesn't have to be that difficult to do something that shows them.
No, and we don't want to be too prescriptive of, you have to do something off this list. The point is just, you know this person, or you should know them to a certain extent, and you kind of got a good idea of possibly what's bothering them and what things they enjoy. And sometimes, kind of going back to my earlier example, sometimes it doesn't have to be anything to do with your hobbies or interests. Like, sometimes it's just someone taking you out of that situation and putting you in in an environment maybe where there's more laughter and positivity. Sometimes that's all you need, you know. And sometimes it's just getting out of the house. Sometimes go to a museum, you know, of a topic that interests you, obviously, but don't overcomplicate it. Like, oh, well, they're really into this and I can't find anything like it in the area. Like, it doesn't have to be that. Just get out. Go for a drive. Go for a walk. I mean, museums here are free in London. That's why it's a good example here. But, you know, it doesn't have to be in line with hobbies and interests and passions, or with good friends or anything. Just get them out. Go to the cinema, or go out for lunch, or, you know, anything.
Yeah. I had a similar example. You know, when we were long distance, and I really struggled with that. You know, after we had first met and I had to go back home between visit 1 and visit 2, I really was in a anxious place, not knowing how things were going to turn out, missing Rich and stuff. And one of my friends could tell, like, she knew what was going on. She knew how hard I was finding it. And I think my text messages that day were particularly flat, and she just turned up at my door and said, we're going to go get ice cream. Come on. And I said, I really don't want to go out. Like, I was in sweats. And she's like, put some jeans on. I'm taking you to get ice cream. Did it make me feel completely better? No, but it made me feel seen and like someone was watching out for me.
Yeah, and that's what you often hear with people who are in, real depression, maybe people who are attempted suicide or, really bad place. What you often hear from them is that they felt invisible and that no one would even notice if they weren't around. And so it's such a small gesture to show someone that you can see them, and sometimes that's enough. Just to know, oh, I am visible and that person does care. Even if it's one person, you can be the person that cares, and that can turn their life around. So yeah, that's probably slightly different to just showing your partner that you value them, but I think it's all part and parcel of that effort is really important, whoever it is in life. But other things, if you follow us on Instagram or if you follow us this podcast in length of time, you've probably heard of our favourite nights and date nights, and I did one for you on Friday.
Yeah, I haven't posted about that yet.
You didn't post it?
I took the pictures, but I haven't posted it.
Oh, okay, well then it doesn't matter if you follow us on Instagram.
Well,
follow us on Instagram and you'll see the pictures. But we've been doing it for years, off and on.
Yeah, off and on.
And I think it's something we're going to try and make more effort with this year for regularity. But it's easy that we live together, but the idea of it is on a favourite night, so Andrew's favourite night, I'll do the food that she really wants, and you get the choice of what we, if we watch a film or whatever we do, it's up to you.
And sometimes it's a surprise, like you'll decide, oh yeah, I know she likes this food or whatever, and so she's been talking about whatever, or maybe it'll be my choice and I'll pick it.
I think the longer we've been doing it, the harder it is to keep thinking.
Yeah, well, we kind of switch it up sometimes.
Yeah. But the point of it is that it's just a night where the other person doesn't have to worry about anything. So it's not necessarily a big deal. It's just it's very low key, and it, like we said, it can be a mixture of a complete surprise, which is how we started it. It'd be, I remember you did me like chocolate chip pancakes, didn't you, one time?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's quite a while ago. But I wasn't allowed to even come into the kitchen while you were cooking it, and so it's all big secret, and then you come in and it's like, oh, by the way, there's a surprise dessert, and this is what we're watching, it's your favourite film, or your...
Yeah, like, all we knew is that it was favourite night, and we knew nothing else.
Yeah,
like,
and then other times, like the one I did for you the other night, it was, have you got any requests that you want this? Because, sometimes even if you really, really like something, like it's one of your favourites, sometimes you just are in the mood for something else.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity for that as well, but it's just... we put the phones away in the other rooms. We weren't distracted because we're really guilty of that. We'll be watching a film and we'll both be on our phones. So the phones are put away. We have the food. You get to pick your movie, cuddle up on the couch, and we're just sort of in the moment. The other person has nothing to deal with that night. There's nothing for them to think about. There's nothing for them to prepare. It's just very intentionally being in the moment
and catering to the other person.
Yeah.
So like this past week, we still have loads of like cheese and crackers in the house, but I thought, let's make it a bit fancier. Can you run to the store today? Because I knew he was doing it for me. Can you grab some olives, some salami? We'll do like a whole like charcuterie. Don't know how you say that, but that's what that is. All that kind of stuff. And then I think we still had loads of chocolates and desserts left in the house again from Christmas and New Year's. So we just kind of had stopped eating that stuff, but saved it to let ourselves eat it again. And then I picked a movie, and then afterwards I wanted to play some video games, and it was just like, whatever you say goes. And that's sometimes really nice to know that whatever you feel like doing... And
there's no pushback on it. And
yeah.
It's not, it doesn't have to be a compromise and an agreement. And so I really would encourage anyone, if you're in close proximity, to do this. If you're long distance, if you watch movies together and stuff, then you can still do a version of it. Maybe... you just be separate. You can watch the same movie together over FaceTime or Skype, and you can cook the same meal. So you'll be apart, but you can still do a version of it. But we really encourage anyone to try it. It's good, and we try and do it regularly. We stopped for a long time, but I think we're going to try more this year. But yeah, do it.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it's and because it's at home and it's usually cooking, it's not an expensive thing if you're trying to be careful with money. Sometimes you've gotten me like Chinese takeout for mine, which is my favourite, or I've taken you out, I think, once for dinner. But yeah, it's just work with what you have to make it special. You've probably also seen that we do theme nights, and these can be quite fun, but they're more something you can do together. So you pick a theme together. That could be a culture, that could be a time era.
Well, ours often revolve around food with a movie, so we might watch an Italian, like The Godfather with Italian food. But I mean, I'd be really interested to hear what people do as a version of this. Instead of it being food and a movie, how else could you do a theme night?
Yeah, but I was saying,
you could
like,
go somewhere.
You could do something like, you could go somewhere and do something. But yeah, it can be like a Mexican, Italian, Chinese, whatever, kind of, the food with the film that goes with it. You could do chow mein and Jackie Chan action films. Just something. It's just quite fun to have a little theme. But you could, like what I was saying, you could do the eras. So maybe you have a medieval one. So it's not really a culture, but maybe you watch, a movie about knights or kings and queens, and you have turkey legs. Whatever it is, you can think of all different ways to do it. But yeah,
maybe you could use it as an exploration. So instead of you doing it that way, you go to a Turkish restaurant and you try and learn something about that culture. I think there are different ways of doing it. You can turn it into a semi-educational thing as well.
Yeah.
But it's just about the intentionality of it.
Mm-hmm. It's very important to plan that time, and that shows again, or not necessarily shows, but knowing that you've planned something can make your partner feel special, which is really important. But yeah, I think kind of maybe moving away a little bit of like the gestures in terms of, surprises or something like that. It's also really important to do little things every day that aren't glamorous or exciting or romantic, that go a long way in showing someone that they're special, that they're appreciated, that they're seen, heard. So, if you know that your wife or whatever comes home, does a big sigh because the kitchen's always a mess and she has to get dinner going, then if you get home a little bit earlier, you do it. Get dinner going, clean the kitchen. If you know that your husband hates to take out the trash and you can do it, do it. Whatever it is, I think it's the ongoing little acts of service that I think can help prevent people from getting into that rut of, I'm just not seen or appreciated.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to do. And it's hard to maintain consistently because we are all busy and we all have things in our life, but trying to do that is what shows that, that they're listened to and they're heard and they're seen. So that's another important way to do it.
And that's what it really boils down to is and this is what I said about reading between the lines. So maybe they may say it, but they may not say that it's a point of frustration for them that they do this every day or whatever. And it's just something you can see and then do. So I really think that's kind of the heart of it, is just how do I make my partner feel special? It's going to be different person by person. So it's kind of up to you to look at them. Maybe if you're stuck for ideas, and maybe audit the situation, maybe write down what do they do every day, what of that am I capable of doing, what do they say their frustrations are generally, like what are they really into, can I do a favourite night by surprise, and what would that look like? There's any number of things you can do, and if you've closed the distance and they're homesick, can you arrange a phone call from their family or their friends, or can you arrange a surprise visit out there, or if none of that works, just think, I'll buy them a book that they really want to get. It can be anything. Or
it can be, hey, she looks tired, I'm going to take the kids out and let her go to bed,
Yeah, it's literally just, what can I do to show them that they mean something to me?
And it's not just doing it once in a blue moon and expecting all this praise for it. Like, oh, I took you out for this surprise dinner. Like, that'll last me for 5 years before I have to do anything else nice again.
No, if you listen to our tit for tat episode, this is not about getting brownie points and racking up a score or banking any sort of favours down the line. There's nothing to do with that at all. And just think, you mentioned this at the beginning. When you were first dating, you're not sitting there racking your brains for what can I do, because you just kind of, it's a focal point in your mind that you want to do something.
It's natural.
Yeah, it's natural, and it doesn't have to involve money. It doesn't have to be expensive gifts or And I think actually kind of the longer a relationship goes on, the more important it is that it's kind of not gifts. I think there's more... It's kind of easy and it's kind of lazy to just say, oh, well, I'll buy that bit of jewellery. Which isn't to never do it, obviously, but...
Shouldn't be the only thing.
Shouldn't be the only thing. I think it's nice, but there's not as much thought that goes into that as planning something out. You know, like, if you were to do like a treasure hunt or something, like that really takes time and effort, and maybe you do a path of where you went on dates, you know, so you're kind of taking them on a trip down memory lane, but to do that you had to go on a trip down memory lane, and then when they go on this little treasure hunt, they're aware of that, and they're thinking, you know, actually all of our past is really important to you as well. But the point is there's thought and there's effort that's gone into that, and consideration.
Yeah, I mean, really, you know, you're a team as a couple, and part of your life together should be making each other's day easier. Whatever you're facing, you know, you should always be striving to take the burden off of each other a little bit. You know, sometimes one of you won't have the capacity for that. Maybe you're working extra hard. Maybe you've got a big project at work. Maybe you've got your thesis for uni. You know, whatever it is, you're not always going to both be able to give the same effort. And, you know, each of you needs to be understanding of that. But, you know, things swing back and forth. And it's important to really take stock of what the other person's going through and how you can lighten that load. And sometimes it's practical stuff. You know, maybe they've lost their job and you're just sending them jobs. Maybe they've got problems with their family and they just need somewhere to crash. You know, whatever it is, it's just letting them know that they're not on their own and they don't have to figure everything out on their own. And I think, you know, you said the further you get into a relationship, you know, it maybe shouldn't be the romantic gifts and stuff, and it needs to be the ongoing stuff. You know, the longer you've been together, you know, the more kind of at ease you are in your couplehood, and, you know, a lot of those big romantic things don't happen anymore, and you can start to feel alone. Even though, like, you and I are really happy, sometimes I'm in my own head and I feel, oh, like I'm doing work all on my own and I'm doing all this on my own, and kind of our parts of our relationship we just take with it and run. So we're each preoccupied with something else, and you can feel a little bit isolated in your part of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even when things are bad. Like, you're just busy. You know, both of us are really busy, and sometimes you stop and think, shit, like I miss you. You're right here, but I miss you. And that's when it's important too. And it just needs to be maintained. And so that's why you need to find a level at which you can do this that is easily maintained. You know, you don't need to be doing a favorite night every single week. I mean, if you want to, you can, but you don't have to, is what I'm saying. You don't have to always be the one cleaning the kitchen, but in your head, if you think, I haven't done anything this week to make them feel special, maybe I should. Whether that's, oh, hey, oh, no, you don't have to take out the trash, I did it. Or, oh, hey, I'm going to take care of dinner tonight, why don't you go take a bath? Just something. Give yourself a time frame. Maybe it only needs to be once a month. But have a way to check in with yourself and with your partner to kind of evaluate if you've done that.
Yeah. So I think that's probably time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But if we would like to request that if you've enjoyed any of what we have to say, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review anywhere that you listen to these, but iTunes or Spotify, whatever, would be much appreciated. It helps more people find us, and share our good news.
Share the good word.
Share the good word. But until next week then.
See ya.